Mayor, we're ready when you are.
All right, well, let's see, we'll come out of recess. I need a motion to come out of recess?
I believe so.
Okay. If I can get a motion to come out of the recess of the council meeting?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion all opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right, we will resume our business items on K5. It's an ordinance to consider amending Chapter 188, Hunting and Firearms.
Good evening, Council, Mayor and Council. This is an ordinance amending ordinance number 773, Chapter 188, Hunting and Firearms, to allow for a crossbow to be permitted at the designated outdoor archery range within the shooting area. And that's the only change.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Collison and a second from Councilman Merrill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to K6, an ordinance to consider amending Chapter 230, Parks and Recreation Areas.
This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 230 Parks and Recreation Areas, specifically park rules and regulations. It does allow for crossbows, as the previous ordinance did, within the park and recreation area, as well as outline some of the range rules and regulations. Specifically, D, wait for all archers to finish before retrieving arrows or bolts. M also adds the addition, or makes the addition of bolts, and allowing broadheads in designated lanes, as well as requiring users to provide their own broadhead-approved targets, allowing crossbows that shoot under 380 feet per second to be shot at all targets, and crossbows that shoot over 380 feet per second only on the designated target provided. And that target runs about $600, but would also be the target the park board discussed that could be used for a league. So it would be easy to change out the paper for leagues. Our current targets don't allow for that. So it could be put on wheels. We discussed it with Mr. Sylvester, and it's usually a decoy shape like a deer or something, and then we can have it so it can move to different distances each week.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve from Councilman Collison and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to K7, resolution to award the bid for the Railroad Crossing Improvements Project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So we opened bids April 26th for the Railroad Crossing Improvements Project. We received 4 competitive bids. The low responsible bidder was Novco Inc. for $82,900. This is to complete the city portion of the work that would go along with the planking getting replaced by the railroad. So we recommend awarding to Novco.
Have we worked with them in the past at all?
No, we haven't here in the city. They're out of Elk River. They're actually admittedly primarily a trucking company, but they do kind of this smaller type work. This is literally a set up traffic control and do more or less street patch, and this is something that they're capable of doing.
Motion to approve.
Does that have to be done now? Or, I know there was a significant amount of patch that was done on, especially on Main Street. Is that expected to not last, so it has to be replaced, or?
So the planking was that same topic that was kind of being driven by the railroad. And so they're, in position to do that work and have offered to do that for our crossing. As we've kind of discussed in the past, if we didn't move forward with this, would just have it deteriorate even further away. That patch was very temporary. Once those tracks are used, it's gonna be gone. We do include quantity to patch our street all the way to the railroad right-of-way, essentially getting us restored to be clear of needing flaggers and the need to do patchwork within the distance from the tracks where you are supposed to get a railroad permit and coordinate with flagging and all those things. And so this includes the quantities to be able to get far enough away so that we're gonna be clear. So in the future, if we need to do a street repair project, we'll be able to stop short of the railroad tracks to avoid having to deal with railroad permitting.
Okay. I thought, maybe a couple meetings ago, I thought there was a price that BNSF gave us. I was under the impression that they were gonna do the work for the planking, or is that, I
So
guess I'm
that-
a little confused.
Right, so that's, the planking itself they're doing.
Okay,
We signed an agreement about 3 months ago where we would cost share on their work at $800 a foot
Yep.
for their planks.
yep,
They're doing that work, but basically they're gonna rip our street out of the way
to do,
and leave.
okay,
And we're responsible to stop our traffic from crossing, and we're responsible for fixing our street, more or less. That's what this bid is to control traffic and fix our street back in, to the planking. The planking itself, that cost that
Yep.
we have agreed to share, that is not included in this. That is in addition to this. And all of it is state aid eligible. We went through the making state aid plans so that our funds will be able to cover this project cost and the planking share cost with state aid funds. But that is what's called a force agreement with state aid to get that money recouped or, funded.
okay. Has anybody looked at, I know last meeting or the meeting before, we talked about South Passage. Does that need work, or is that something that the Public Works can handle, or what was determined on that?
Yeah, so I reached out to the Railmaster and the regional local projects leader for the BNSF. They almost instantly acknowledged they could see the spot from Bing Maps, the aerial view. You can see the dark spot. And so they got it into their work schedule to patch it, and then they'll have to monitor whether or not, actually, I take that back. They did not finalize the decision. They're trying to decide if they're gonna patch that internal panel between the tracks,
They
or
did
if
patch it.
they did?
Yep.
Okay, so when I spoke with them, they were gonna go size up if it could be a patch, or if they had to remove that inner panel,
Okay,
stick that back in, and then do a full repair in the future, but they must have determined at least it'll be able to hold up for the time being. So,
okay.
I'm glad to hear they did something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I went by that night. It was pretty bad. Like I say, they saw it from an aerial camera, that's pretty bad, yeah.
All right, I had a motion from Councilman Collison. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Councilman Merrill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to K8, resolution awarding the bid for the Third Avenue Utility Extension Project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So this is the bid results from the Third Avenue Utility Extension for the project where we're extending sewer and water up to those 4 new platted lots that we have up Third Avenue. We received 8 bids on April 26th. They're all found to be good competitive bids, with the lowest bidder, responsible bidder being J.R. Furchy in the amount of $751,442. We recommend awarding to them and getting this project underway. I believe there's an agreement in place that we're supposed to have it all up and running by, well, more or less the end of the season for the Midco site to be able to connect on.
I had a question on this one. I see the engineering estimate was $670,000. and the lowest bid was $751. Now, I know we had discussed that Midco would be paying a quarter of the actual cost, or was that just a set number, or was it a percentage based on what we got? It was a set number?
Yep, it was a set number. So basically, at that time, I'd put together an estimate for what it would cost them to extend the sewer and water themselves the entire way. And that estimate, I believe, was somewhere in the $260,000 range. And so they basically agreed, okay, well, if that's what we would have had to pay, we'll pay that, and then whatever extra cost would go to the city. And so that money would be included in this, you know, coming off of this total towards the city. Otherwise, funding-wise, you might want to, I guess, talk to the finance director, but it sounds like.
I think
sewer
we had
and
some
water
conversations today that, you know, that extra cost will be split amongst those other three
Right.
parcels that are there. But,
I mean, Mike, did we do okay on that $262,000 negotiation, or would it be better in the future to do a percentage base versus a actual number, because you don't know what the bids are gonna end up coming in as?
I think we did fine on that.
Okay.
I think in the end, if we were drawing on a percentage, we'd now be talking about a percentage of the difference, and so it ends up getting to be a pretty small number.
Okay.
And to the extent that we're gonna split the difference between water, sewer, as we're actually paying the bills, and then those items, that cost goes back to those three northern parcels, I think we'll do fine. And so long as I think everybody's in agreement, so long as we stick to our guns on, we're not giving away the farm on these parcels. We understand the value of industrial parcels. I don't think it's gonna be particularly hard to recover that. It might take
and I
18
forget
months,
what-
or it
what-
might,
We actually got full payment for the parcel too, and I forget what the dollar amount was on that, but you remember about?
$118,000.
and they've paid their
There's that too,
and they've paid their $265 to cover the utility work, and, yeah, and at this point, they're expecting that to be done, and we've basically promised as much, and I think we're in a very reasonable financial situation for the kind of development we're talking about, and hopefully what will be coming in the not-too-distant future north of them, so it'd be good for us.
Was there a reason though that bid came in high? Was there like different issues that they dealt with that we weren't expecting, or it just was the time of the year and everybody's busy and that kind of thing, or?
I guess the baseline was the estimate that's listed there was done prior to final design. So we did find that the depth of the lift station had to be a little bit deeper. The pump design had to be a little bit different than the just original concept estimate. So the cost of that lift station was 3/4 of that overage in itself. Otherwise, yeah, I guess looking at the bids, there was just a general overall increase, whether or not that was just industry costs having gone up because pipe prices have been tough to estimate. It does look like they had a higher amount of mobilization on all their bids, so it may have been related to how many different subcontractors have to come to town, because there's directional drilling going on, the control panels and all the internal components for this lift station, or grinder pump, I guess is technically what we're putting in. You know, all those extra tasks, I guess, brought that price up a little bit.
Sure. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the, let's see, the lowest bidder was, well, do I have a motion to approve the project with the lowest bidder?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Collison and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, or all opposed, excuse me, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Can't get my packet to reopen that. All right. Moving on to K9, resolution awarding the bid for the water tower coating improvements project.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is yet another bid result that we've just recently done. This one was bid on April 20th. We received 8 competitive bids for the water tower coating improvements. This project included 2 different alternates, where the baseline is where we would be redoing the interior coatings, and then we bid it with one alternate being a full replacement of the exterior, and one alternate being a approximate 10% spot repair of the exterior, and then an overcoat covering all of that. The bids came in with two different possible responsible low bidders. The low bidder for the full replacement option would be Osseo Construction with a bid of $733,700. The spot repair option would be Champion Tank Services with a bid of $487,800. If you look at my summary at least, the full replacement cost did actually come in under our estimate, where the spot repair actually came in over our estimate. They have, different life expectancies. The full replacement is expecting, more of a 20-year life expectancy, whereas the spot repair is somewhere in the 7 to 10-year life before we'd be looking at doing a full replacement at that time. I have a little bit more info on the agenda write-up about just kind of how the math breaks down on life expectancy. It's not exactly true, cost breakdown, but just kind of a uniform total cost versus the life expectancy. Came out to the full replacement costing slightly less per year once it's averaged out than the spot repair. So at this point, I guess we're recommending award to Osseo Construction for the full replacement, and I guess it's open for any questions.
Okay, so I had actually done quite a bit of research on this because paint and rust repair is kind of an area I'm familiar with. So I spoke with a representative that sells the Sherwin-Williams water tower product that he's sold it for the last 6 years. And he looked at all the engineering stuff, and he actually recommended that we would get a better result from the overcoat, not from sandblasting, because you already have that layer of protection that's there. So adding another layer of protection is going to ensure that it's going to last a long time versus if you sandblast and there's some sort of potential for moisture to get in between the metal and the paint, the water tower can rust from the inside out because you now have that, the metal's exposed. So now you have another area for something to go wrong. Versus the overcoats, actually, he said it was going to last you longer than the full application would. He sells the paint. He's not an engineer, but that's what he's seen. And then I was under the impression that we could choose the base bid. We could choose the base bid with option 1 or base bid with option 2. Me personally, I would rather just, based on all the engineering stuff, I would rather just fix the stuff that needs to be fixed. I don't think the paint on the outside of the tower needs to be redone. Option 1, or the cheaper of the options, would basically overlay over the existing paint, so you're gonna paint the whole tower. And then the more expensive option is sandblasting and repainting the whole tower. But I don't think the paint on it is that bad that it needs all of that. Now, the areas that are bad, and are obviously bad inside the tank, I think they should be fixed ASAP. But I guess I would rather not spend the extra $140,000 roughly just to paint the exterior when it's in fine shape the way it is.
See, I guess I was kind of confused on that, because I thought we were bidding out, just doing the inside part of the water tower and the spot repair on the paint was the cheaper option, right? It wasn't a full painting of the water tower is what I thought. Is that?
That's what I thought as well.
So the spot repair is to go catch up to 10% of the surface that are the isolated bad spots, sandblast those individual spots, get them fixed, and put a final overcoat to cover all of those spot paint job, things, to get a full coat over the entire thing. It's just you don't spend the money to
Gotcha.
sandblast the entire
Okay.
thing first. So in the end, the final product, day 1 after we're done, will look brand new.
Right.
Either option. It's just whether or not we're looking at,
Gotcha, okay.
a different life expectancy and then a different type of maintenance the next go-around.
I think if you get 7, 8 years out of a patch job, the cost of doing it again in 7, 8 years is gonna be drastically more than it would to do it right the first time.
So,
But some people,
Drastically more.
there's the guy that I talked to that sells the coating said that you're better off to do The actual using the, so what you're doing is you're using the paint that's already there, the lift test is good, you're using that paint as a primer, which is gonna be better off than DTM, direct to metal. It's gonna last you longer, he said, than doing sandblasting and recoating. That's what the guy that sells the paint told me. So, and then you have more layers of protection as well, so you'll be able to scratch it deeper or have more, it'll be more coverage than if you were to sandblast it and put on, paint. You have less coverage now, so. I mean, I'm going based on the guy that sells the paint for a living, but,
So there's, I guess, one little tweak to that. Doing a full replacement would have the systematic layering of the
Primer.
proper layers of primer to the outer coat, different types of paints with the newly, thicknesses that'll bond together at the right way.
yep.
The last evaluation that was done last September that kind of caused us to go to doing this work, did some spot depth checks on the coating. I guess I don't have the numbers, but essentially the thickness, what was left was in the reasonable range. It was in the 7 to 11 mil thickness, which is more or less, on the thinner end of where we would want to get that extra overcoat back on top of it to get the full thickness back. Where there is those variability issues where, the possibility of us not catching every little rust spot, and now that rust is expanding underneath where we didn't catch a rust spot in the 10%, we're gonna go hunt down and get the worst spots. Those spots we don't catch could grow and be a bigger problem next go-around. The next go-around definitely would turn out to be a full replacement whenever that time comes, whether it's 7, 10, or 15, if we would do kind of the same thing we did this first time, either option that you choose, after the anticipated life expectancy, we would have an evaluation done to see, okay, we're getting to the life expectancy, how are we looking? Last time we did, the first evaluation, and it was, yeah, we're still good. Let's come back in 5 years, and that's what we did. And now, last year it was, okay, now it's getting to that line where we should do something. Like you say, the reason we bid it both ways is both are viable, repairs. It's just the long-term, the cost difference on the value of what bids we got. That's why we went this far, to find out what bids we would get. It basically comes down to that topic of the cost difference for that exterior work is almost really close to being that value per year. They did break down almost exactly where it makes it a tough decision, where we were trying to find out if it was gonna be a tough decision or not. If the bids came in and we're like, oh, that's a ridiculous price, so this one's good. So that's where we sit. They're both fair prices. We have very good 8 bidders, good competitive bids. I am aware of how competitive is out there. The actual Osseo Construction is actively trying to find out if we're gonna be awarding, because they're bidding tomorrow morning on a project. And if they get this project, then they won't bid it. And literally everybody's filling up their quotas. So, so I'd recommend, locking in one of these good bids, but, it's up to you guys which route you wanna go.
How many years since that's the original paint job?
Yep.
And how old is it?
We're on 20 years right now. Yep.
I guess I don't see why it has to be recoated, because the outside's still nice. Obviously, the inside needs to be done, and from day one, I was in the understanding that we were gonna have bids for just the stuff that has to be replaced and fixed, that has to be, and I was never under the understanding that both bids were gonna be repaints, because I don't think the tower needs to be repainted, so I don't understand why we'd spend $150,000. I would rather fix the stuff that has to be done, wait maybe 5 years, and then sandblast and repaint the whole thing. That was what I would prefer, because that white paint on there is still fine for protecting that metal for at least minimum of 5 more years.
Then you're gonna have to come up with, I don't know, 5 years, $1.5 million,
Well,
instead of 700 something now.
Why?
I guess we have one other issue here.
It's
So
like
this,
putting a layer of shingles on top of another layer of shingles.
No,
Why would you do it?
I'm talking about not painting the exterior at all. this time, when then maybe waiting 5 years to get 5 more years out of it, and then maybe it's more justifiable to sandblast and repaint it then.
Right.
Yeah,
But that price then is gonna be higher than it is if we did it now.
it might be.
Oh, it will be. Everything's going up. And it'll
I had
continue.
asked Jason earlier if we could just do just the inside where the water's actually a concern, right? So I mean, we absolutely, I think, should do that for sure, because there
agree.
is rust in there. I know they had an overflow one time, it came down that chute, and there's still rust, piles of rust, sitting there, so we'd need to do that, we need to take care of that, we don't wanna take any chances with that, but as far as the painting goes, I mean, Jason had said it's probably 400 or so is what you're gonna get if you just do the interior. Well, then you figure for 87, if we can buy 15, maybe we might get more time out of it. I mean, you look at that water tower over in North Branch, I mean, the old one that they have, the thing is filthy, it's rusted horribly, so, I mean, not that we wanna have that, but I mean, I think that we go the cheaper option and, do the 487 and make sure we've got it good to go inside, and we've got the outside that should last us a while, and, it might end up costing us 2,000 more a year is the math that you figured, I mean, but if it lasts longer, then it's a better deal then for us, so I think that's a chance for 2,000 a year, I'm willing to take that chance if it ends up lasting 5 years longer than it's expected, like it did last time with the original paint, then we're gonna come out quite a bit ahead, actually, so.
I would agree with that. And the guy that sells the paint for the water towers said the same thing, so.
Yeah, I think it should
I'll
do
take
just
my
fine.
word over an engineer over a salesman any day. Does and deals with that stuff day in, day out.
Well, you'd think the
Salesman
salesman would have
is
more
gonna
of
know
an
better than
incentive.
engineer.
The salesman would have more of an incentive to sell you more paint, and he's actually telling them to paint less, though. So, I don't know. I mean, not to say that Jason doesn't know what he's doing, but, I mean, you can make the argument both ways on that. But what were you gonna say, Jason, that?
Well, just that because we didn't bid it as interior only work, and then the alternates are add-ons if we choose, we're not set up where we could do the only award the interior. And so that's where the estimate comes in. Looking at the bids that were received, if, we happen to not get this Champion Tank Services to bid this, and we tried to just bid the interior again, not only would we lose a month of the season, but, if we only happen to have that one lower bid, the next lowest bid would be essentially a $400,000 low bid if we tried to only do the interior as a separate bid, like redoing this. And so, like you just said, the cost difference, once you look at that, versus the spot repair option is reasonably cheap for getting an entire new coat on that tower.
Yeah, right.
One more piece, we did add a third logo as an option. Right now, there's only two. If you're ever on the northwest side looking at the tower, there's just nothing. And so that's at least an option if you guys would choose to not add the third one. We did get individualized bids in this case. If we were going with the Champion bid, that would take another $4,000 off, that type of thing. If we went with Osseo on the full replacement, they actually bid each logo at $12,000, so that would knock $12,000 off if you just wanted to put back the two logos as we have it. And so that would end up only costing the city the $721,000. Just, an option.
Do they have that bid broke down at all? Is there any guesstimate what to do just the inside?
It's right here.
Like,
So the inside from Champion was $349,000.
okay,
So it's $140,000 to paint the outside is basically what it's coming down to, when I don't think it needs it. But then again, it's the way it was bid, we're kind of SOL on that, I guess. Which, I don't know, I just hate to spend the money when I don't think it needs it right now,
Yeah, I agree, I mean, I don't think it's, but,
with what we got.
if you already have them there, and it's gonna only cost you 87 more to do the full, to repair, do the spot repair and paint it,
It's
then.
$140,000 more, if you look at Champions.
Well, but Jason said that if he went back out for, because we didn't bid it that way where it was separate, so he's guessing that if we went back out, you're at 400 or so.
You just
is
would
what
want
I'm
to be
thinking, right?
prepared for a number like that.
Right.
We could get another 350, another
I mean, we could,
similar bid, but.
I mean, we could also, I'd,
could
I'd,
also
I'd
lose
be
some
okay with the
bidders.
first option.
I'm concerned
What'd you say, Dan?
You'll lose the bidders.
Yeah, right. I'd be okay, if we wanted to make a decision today, I'd be okay with the, option, one there. But also, I mean, I'm okay if we wanna try to go back out, and if we end up losing the bid or it goes higher, then we do it next year.
You mean alternate two? The less expensive bid?
Is that what I mean? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yep. Yeah, I'm sorry, alternate two. Yeah,
So
I was
on,
reading
on
wrong.
that, Jason, I have a question. Was that, I see it was written as a power wash. Is there an acid etch or anything before the paint is applied as well? Or is there any sort of prime, like etch that's gonna be done on the existing paint?
I guess honestly, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
My coatings expert handles those kind of elements of the process, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if we wanna try to rebid it for just the interior, if it does end up being high, we could wait till next year we could bid it again, but.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I mean, I kinda think, if you are accurate on your guess of 400, then if we are only talking 87 more to get the full paint,
Yeah.
then I mean, it might last 15, 20
Yeah,
years.
right.
I mean, we might get a full life out of it.
Right,
so
I expect we would, but,
I would think so too, I mean,
And there's the last piece, if you broke it into two separate entire projects, because if you did the interior just this year,
yeah, right, then if you waited only 5
eventually in the next 2 to 3 year, however long you guys feel that you wanna wait, you'll be having to pay again for like a separate round of a project as opposed to the combined cost. That increase of, either the 138 or the, estimated $87,000 increase is not really much for getting an entire new surface of a tower with all new logos, just in that general thought.
and just to give you an idea, the paint cost on that is about 70 to 90,000. That's the paint material cost. So in case you're curious, so it's about $50,000 in labor for them to paint it. So, I mean, I'm for alternate two. I think it's actually gonna last longer than alternate one, but
I think it
based
will.
on,
I think it will too.
yeah.
And I'm okay with 2 logos, I don't know.
So if we were to accept the champion bid, with only 2 logos, it would be $483,800. I think that was.
Yeah, we technically have to award the bid as bid.
No, it's-
It's just as a unit price item, we can just not put it on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd look for a motion then to approve the alternate 2 with the 2 logos.
I'll make
Or,
that
well,
motion with,
after the fact, yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve alternate 2 with the 2 logos after the fact.
I second.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1. And let's see. Get back in the right spot here. Moving on to K10, resolution to consider extending the letter of credit for Circle B weddings.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have Circle B Weddings here with us, and he'll go up in a minute. But I just wanted to start out by saying that in 2017, the city approved a conditional use permit for Circle B Ranch, which is now under new ownership and called Circle B Weddings. For a retreat center and hobby farm, conditions of the CUP included paving the parking lots within 5 years and submitting a letter of credit to the city to ensure the lot is paved. Paving the parking lot is a city code requirement. Any deviation would require a variance. The property is in the R1A Rural Residential District, and the letter of credit is due to expire this month. So the owner is requesting an extension of the letter of credit and/or a variance to maintain the parking lot as Class 5, which would allow the city to cancel the letter of credit. So Wayne is here today, if you'd like to. Oh, can you? Yes.
Can you hear me? My name is Wayne Butt. I, with my wife Angie Butt, purchased the Circle B Ranch December 15th of '22, and we rebranded to Circle B Weddings and Events. And at that time of closing, we were told of the letter of credit for the Circle B Ranch. And so my request this evening is to do the variance and request that the letter of credit be canceled and that we don't have to pave that parking lot. My experiences with our other wedding venue in Cottage Grove, it's called the historic John P. Ferber Farm, and that parking lot is Class 5. It is a little bit dusty, unlike Circle B Ranch, because they used a different kind of crushed rock, so it's not as dusty as the Ferber Farm. So my goal is to not have to pave it. The cost of paving that parking lot for approximately 200 cars would be well over $700,000 or close to $1 million. And so at this time, we don't have the funds to even do that, so the extension would be requested, but I request that we apply the variance and remove that letter of credit.
I think a gravel fits the theme way better. I motion for a variance.
So,
I can.
sorry, I just want to interrupt for a second. So tonight, we'll be extending the letter of credit. A variance has to go through a few other channels. So I just wanted to get the direction on that so that we can move forward. But the extension does need to occur first, and then we'll come back with a variance.
Yeah, I mean, and there is precedent for us to allow a variance for this. We did it with My Jungle Gym, kind of the back parking lot there. That was, Dan, what was that, a year ago or so, a year and a half ago, something like that? So we've done it from time to time, and he's not even in the city really, you know, so,
I would
so
say
I'd be okay with
The venue's
that.
so much better
Yep.
there than tar.
I do want to be clear that the accessible parking spaces are paved, and that has been completed. And that is why the letter of credit was reduced a few years back, 2021, I believe. But yes, this is located in the R1 Rural Residential District, so we don't have a ton of businesses in that district. Anyway, it doesn't allow for a lot of business types other than more agriculture-based. So there's not a lot of worry that we're setting a precedence within the city also for other businesses.
Okay.
Well, that's great news, because we've actually questioned our couples that book our wedding venue. Hey, we're thinking about paving the driveway and the parking lot, and they're like, wait a minute, you're taking away from the ambiance, and so, yeah, thus the request. Thank you.
You bet.
So we'll move forward with the motion to extend the letter of
for the
credit,
time
and
being,
then we'll come back with the variance and the cancellation of the letter of credit at that time. Thanks.
So I have a motion to extend the letter of credit for the time being.
I'll second.
And that's from Councilman Heeman, and I have a second from Councilman Merrill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, you bet. Thank you for coming in, and good luck out there. Thanks for your patience tonight, too. So,
And I do want to give them a shout out because they do have a ribbon cutting next
right, that's right.
Wednesday at 5 p.m. 4:30, okay.
Yes, the council, staff, and North 65 Chambers will be present at 4:30 to perform the ribbon cutting, and then we'll break into some food, and then open up to the entire community. I see the media's back here, so hit social media and let the folks know, because just a show of hands, who's been in the Circle B barn? Who of you? So,
It looks cool, I know that.
next time you see me, I want to see 100% hand raising, because I'd love to see you out there. It's a beautiful venue, and it cost a lot of money to do that. And yes, I talked to Mike, the taxes are high on that property, and there's a reason for that. So, yeah, we're excited to be in town. Angie and I grew up in a small rural community in Belmont, Iowa, population 2,500. So this is like home to us. Have we decided to move here yet? I've been asking. I'm all for it. We currently live in Cottage Grove. That population is close to 40,000. Woodbury's north of 80,000. So we're in the metro area. And so watching the EDA meeting tonight and watching Ben's numbers, there is a sprawl to get out to that rural area, and it does, impact the community and the tax base, et cetera. But no, we're excited to be here. I posted a picture on Facebook, and I said, I'm here at the Isani City Council meeting, and it's welcoming and warming to be here. And it
Thank you.
absolutely is. Thank you.
We appreciate that, Wayne. So, and I know I'm gonna be there. Stephanie told me 4 o'clock, so she must know I have a tendency to be late sometimes, so.
That was Wednesday at 4:30 was the ribbon cutting?
4:30.
On Wednesday, the 10th.
Big
Yeah,
pair of
yep.
scissors. Big pair of scissors.
Cool.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Let's see, so moving on to K11, resolution to consider approval of special event permit for Isani Firefighters Rodeo Association Annual Rodeo.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I'm up a lot tonight. The application for the rodeo is the same as years prior, and I'm sure that'll be discussed here and shared with you. Police Chief Travis Myers approves with the following conditions added: that emergency vehicle egress to within 150 foot of all buildings with a 20-foot width minimum and a 13-foot 6-inch height minimum. There needs to be 2 parking spots directly next to the west and east entrances for police and a line of vehicles. Security shall utilize electronic ID verification system. Security shall provide adequate services to curtail and address disorderly persons. And I did have a request that if we're waiving fees as requested by the IFRA, that it would be possible for the city of Isani to place Illuminate Isani signage at the event. So,
Good
I thought
idea.
that was a great idea,
It
yeah.
is.
All right, any thoughts, any discussion, any questions for Eric?
So Travis, I have a question for you. She listed those things. Has any of that changed from the previous year significantly, or has that always been how it's been, pretty much?
No, it hasn't been on there. The minimums, that's from Chief Jankovich, they gave for outdoor events as far as the distance that he wanted.
Okay,
So those are gonna be, you're gonna see those on more permits as they come through. Actually specifically for the, it'll be for like the farmer's market over at Members Cooperative as well. So you'll see that come through on that. The 2 parking spots, there was issues with parking for emergency vehicles there. We had an issue last year, so this will circumvent those issues, as well as the issues with the ID verification system. You know, we ran into last year 2 people that we dealt with that were minors outside that, I mean, looking at an ID in person, they look good, but when we saw them, they weren't good. So that's just a way to curtail that. I mean, if you think about the amount of people that 11,000 people we come in contact with, very minute, and come up with 2 separate people, the same issue. So trying to curtail those issues.
so is that a scanner then?
Yeah.
Does that, so I have a money clip that's magnetic, so my magnet strip doesn't work on that. So what do they do if your magnetic strip on your ID doesn't work? Because that's a common problem with the new IDs.
Yeah. So there's magnetic strip and then there's optical strip too on it.
Are you
Okay.
looking for anything in particular with any particular kind of scanner for that?
No, just if you reach out to the security specialist should have some
Yep.
knowledge of that base. They should
Okay.
probably even have it. If not, it's not, I know it's not a big deal. It's they're pretty common in some of the bars and stuff, but that company's pretty decent, so they should just reach out to them.
I heard people mention too that they have like an app for your phone now that will scan IDs. Is
Yes.
that accurate, or is that, I don't know.
As long as they have some kind of system, I don't
Yeah.
really, I'm not gonna endorse one or the other, so just some kind of system, because I don't know if you guys ever saw the ones that we were pulling out of there. It was interesting, I mean, they weren't real, but they were real.
Yeah,
I mean, they look pretty good.
That was something that we just discussed at one of the meetings, was using some type of scanner like that.
Yeah. So, and I would, I mean, you do what you need to do, but I would lean on that, your contract and security, because they should deal with that at other venues too, on what works for them.
Any other questions?
How are you planning on reserving those 2 spots for emergency vehicles? Just cones, or?
That should be pretty easy. We can just mark off some spots for them there.
Okay.
At the east and west entrance.
Okay.
Typically, we meet prior to anyways, and we discuss outside the perimeter stuff that's going on, like traffic flow, and we can figure that out prior to the event.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Heeman and a second from Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we should ask though, are we able to, because I guess we didn't ask that question, as far as waiving the fees in exchange for the signage at the rodeo for Illuminate Isani? Was that something that you guys were okay with, or?
Well, as long as we bring it to the membership, it's not just us
Yeah,
two. But
right.
we'd have to approve it with them, but I don't see why not,
Okay.
so.
Can we approve it with the condition that we bring it to the?
Yeah, I think we can do that, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so then I had,
Catch.
well, I wanted to ask anyway before we went and approved it, but, Councilman Heeman, I've got a, motion, and I've got a second from Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Let's see. K-12, resolution to consider approval of amendment to Rum River BMX lease agreement for special event parking.
Good evening again. This is for the Rum River BMX parking agreement that was discussed at the COW meeting. The lease agreement is amended to state that the Rum River BMX issues the parking passes and keeps 100% of the parking revenues, and the repairs to the parking areas are at their expense. It also includes the money that the city has currently collected being returned back to them.
I had a question about one of the lines on there. It says, whereas the city of Isani will no longer invoice RRBMX following an event for 50% of the revenue of all tickets not returned on Tier 1 events. And then it says, after the initial $8,000 has been met. What does that mean?
Excuse me, Councilmember, that was in the original parking agreement.
Okay.
So it's just stating some of what was happening and now the new.
So it's the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2 events. Tier 2 events are the lower attended events, and the Tier 1, the intent there was to allow them an opportunity to gain some revenue for a national event. There's money they need to put up, and so after we had originally amended this in 2018, they came back later, I think probably 2020-ish, and said, hey, we could get a national event, but we're going to need more revenue. And so we said, okay, let's change that Tier 1 events so you can retain the first $8,000, then we'll split after that, so you've got some money to be able to put down on that. But now we're just going to walk away from all that stuff.
Okay, so it still needs to be in there? I guess, and in
It
what
is
I,
just- The resolution's just stating what was occurring and then what is occurring. It says no longer. Just so
Okay.
it's very clear, if someone didn't find the old resolution, they just looked at this new one, the city will no longer collect those fees.
okay.
Yeah, and I think it's great to be able to give that money back to them, and they're doing some awesome stuff over there. You want to talk about some events that, like that Ben was talking about tonight, that bring people in for a good experience? I mean, the rodeo and the BMX track are two things we've got going for us that are awesome parts of the community. So do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from, Councilman Collison, I think maybe had beat you there, George. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to K-13, so the Green Step Cities discussion. I guess this one is kind of mine to take the lead on, huh? So we talked about this a little bit at Committee of the Whole, and I brought in some paperwork that Josie was nice enough to print off for me. Just kind of took a screenshot of the Minnesota Green Step Cities website, and like I had mentioned that night, that they're really, you know, they've got this facade of the Green Step Cities, which maybe isn't a completely horrible thing. I'm not a huge fan of some of the things that they're wanting to do, but the biggest issue that I had was that they're pushing equity. And, you know, for those of you that don't follow the CRT, like critical race theory stuff and that kind of thing, I mean, equity is basically racism in reverse, if you will say. So, I mean, it's, I think it's social engineering, and it's something that I don't think has anything to do with, you know, with being green or anything that they're pretending to be a part of. And so, you know, when I'm looking at this and I'm seeing equity coming soon, and they've already done some things, and I kind of, you know, laid out some of, they have 29 basic principles for best practices is one of the things that that they push. And, you know, one of those is that they want to have 7 units of housing per acre, which would be horrible for a community like ours. You know, they want to have sustainable purchasing, where they put special preference on support of local, minority, disability, and women-owned businesses, which there's nothing wrong with buying from those type of businesses, but I'd rather purchase things based on somebody's character, based on the work that they do, regardless of skin color or anything else, you know, I mean, I think that's just, you know, treating people, like I said, based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. You know, to go, you know, the reverse way, that doesn't seem to make any sense to me to do some of these things that they're pushing. Here was one that I thought was kind of funny. It was local air quality, reduce residential burning of wood and yard waste, and eliminate backyard trash burning. So yeah, I'm fine with eliminating backyard trash burning, but you want to eliminate burning wood? You know, I mean, it's just stuff like that that I just think it's kind of silly, and I think they're kind of overstepping what their mission was, and that's why I'd like to see us just get rid of it, you know, so, I don't know what you guys' thoughts are, but.
Sure. So after, you know, talking about the last meeting, I was totally okay with keeping the Green Step program because I thought it was only about, you know, being green and stuff like that. But now, you know, I read some of this stuff and they're really overstepping what their mission is, and I can't support that either. They need to stay in their lane, and I don't want to support an organization that doesn't, you know.
And I mean, and they maybe do some things that are okay, and there's some things that we would just do naturally anyway because they make more sense to do it that way now. But I don't want to give credit, sort of, or I don't want to give support to the other things that they're doing. You know what I mean? So I think it's time to get rid of it.
I agree.
Mayor, if I may, if the direction of council is to potentially get rid of this program or to have staff not participate, or the city not participate and staff not also participate in it, I would request that you do have a motion, since we do have a resolution that did approve to enter into this program, that there be a vote of council to step out of the program.
I'll make a motion to step out of the program.
It says equity coming soon. What's soon mean?
Well, if you look at that other tab where it says special topics, you can click on equity there, and then you can, that's what pops up when you do that, is it says equity coming soon. And then it says, you know, if you click on the other thing, it goes to these other links that are talking about that stuff, so.
I can't believe that they're hiding this stuff in their organization on green energy stuff. It's kind of absurd, so I'm happy that you caught that.
Well, and you can kind of see down underneath that equity where it says coming soon, there's a description. We are busy making updates to Green Step City and Tribal Nation best practices action to better include racial and social equity. I mean, I have no problem with equality. You know, equality under the law is an awesome thing. I mean, people fought for that, and that's awesome stuff. But I mean, equity is not the same as equality. That's like I said, social engineering kind of stuff. That's something totally completely different. That's not judging people based on the character, and that's judging them essentially on skin color, and I don't want to be a part of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That has nothing to do with being green and as a city.
Yeah. So, I had a motion to approve from Councilman, are we approving, or are we,
So staff will draft a resolution following the council meeting
Okay.
that puts in the action into Word, so we do have it on record, or, you know, in written form.
so we're motioning to approve a resolution to
Withdrawal
from the Green Step Cities. And I have a motion by Councilman Merrill and a second by Councilman Heeman. Sorry.
Real quick, if we go ahead past this, I think it'd be important if we could let them know the reason why we're stepping down. And I think they maybe would use that feedback.
I would agree.
Absolutely. Does
that make sense?
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yep.
I appreciate that. That's
Good
awesome.
idea.
That's a great idea. So we'll make a motion with that stipulation that we're going to make them aware of the reason that we're pulling out of the program. So I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right, moving on to K14, resolution to consider approving payment for drafting services for Bluebird Park bathrooms.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jordan has been working to try to receive some quotes for drafting services for the bathroom at Bluebird Park. We cannot use the engineered drawings that are provided by the companies who have their own proprietary drawings done. Those don't work the same structurally, so we do have to get it drafted. We do not need it to be engineered specifically for this size of building, according to the building official. But so far, Josh Robinson Construction was contacted, and his drafter is not interested, currently not doing commercial work. Larry Friendlin from LSF Designs was contacted. He's on vacation and gave a rough estimate of $5,000 to $7,000, and he'll be back next week sometime. Home Sweet Home Designs no longer has somebody on their staff that's doing commercial projects at the moment. And Croy Designs was contacted and given information, but a quote was not returned in time for the meeting. So that's.
So I have a
where we're at.
question on this. Why do we, I mean, we have a building official that's paid for by the city. Why do we have to hire someone for a simple structure? Is that a Minnesota state statute, or?
We do need to have plans for a building, and
Can the building
Can he do
inspector
that?
draft up those plans for us since it's
he is
doesn't?
not a drafter.
No?
So,
What were you gonna say, Dan?
Oh, it's just they take a draft and they turn it into blueprint for all the people that are gonna be working on the project.
Yeah, I suppose, huh? I mean, I talked to Councilman Lundin, because I knew he wasn't gonna be here, so I wanted to see what his thoughts were, because he's pretty experienced in this type of thing. So he expected it would be somewhere in that 5,000 range, so we're pretty spot on with that one, and he thought that probably would still end up as a savings when we do the stick build instead of the prefab, so, I mean, he would know more than I would, for sure. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on it, but that's what he had said.
I guess I just see it as a redundancy. Anybody that builds, I would think would know what needs to go into a building like that.
They're
I-
still
is
gonna
there-
need a plan to follow.
They need-
They're not
Yeah,
gonna
right.
just, you know,
they
wing
need
it.
to have an
Sure.
approved plan. The building official will need to approve a plan, and we can't favor ourselves over other builders.
Mayor and council, I'd also like to add, kind of the primary reason to have plans is to go out for bid. So it's for
Sure, yep.
them to bid, and because the threshold likely would be over 125,000, it's going out for bid process, just like we do for the engineers' projects for the city here. So it's having all those bid documents drafted that meet those requirements as well.
So what kind of a motion do you need?
My suggestion for this resolution is, since we don't have a clear bid at this time, is that you could allow staff to choose the best bid up to a certain amount.
So is
Want
that,
to say 7,500 maybe, so we got a little wiggle room there if he comes in, you know, a little over 7, but.
And Mayor, the other thing I would add, excuse me, the other thing I'd add to that is to further this project without having to come back, if council agrees, is to also include within a motion to go out for bid, because typically we draft documents and then council says we can go out for bid. This would couple the two together. We would, staff would have all the documents drawn up and go out for bid and bring back the bidders.
Okay,
Sounds like a good idea.
yeah. Yep. All right, so do I have a motion to approve up to $7,500 for the drafting and to send the draft out to bid once completed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Collison and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. And moving on to K15, resolution to consider purchase of materials for a wooden protective barrier at the archery range.
Good evening again. Jordan has been doing research on different fencing barrier materials for the archery range. The first option is a 6-foot tall cedar fence, which would cost materials of $3,877.72. An 8-foot tall cedar fence costing $10,055, and a 10-foot tall cedar fence with materials costing $13,864. Previously, the netting option was approximately $12,000, and that's doubled up netting and 20% extra length, so it's not taut. But netting is a concern for the allowance of broadheads. All prices are just materials and not labor factored in. Jordan specifically said he feels like a barrier is not any safer than the current arrangement, because right now dog park users can see what's happening, and if we put up a wooden fence, they're not gonna be able to have awareness. Archer, if they do miss-shoot, could say, hey, it's coming, like they could see if there's somebody in the dog park, and vice versa, like on a golf course when you yell for. So with having a fence there, it really prevents them from knowing somebody's there or somebody's in harm's way.
So I have a question on this. Is this along the fence line that's already existing, or is this between this, okay.
Yes.
So I did some math on this. The 6-foot tall fence, I don't think is tall enough, and I don't even know if 8 or 10 foot are tall enough. So if you do the math, my idea was to actually take the 6-foot fence sections and stack 2 of them together, and then you can do a 16-foot 4x4. So basically you have a 12-foot tall fence, and the math on that comes out to roughly $6,300. And the biggest benefit of that as well is, say if somebody damages one of the boards, you're only replacing a 6-foot board, which is a lot cheaper than the taller, bigger boards if you do a single fence like that.
Problem with that, though, is you're gonna have wind. 4x4 isn't gonna be strong enough.
Okay. Well, I looked online, and 12-foot fence is recommended to have a 16 to 18-foot 4x4 as your posts, with 2 bags of concrete. And I also did some math. So if we have 44 bags of concrete on the order list, Menards actually gives a quantity discount at 56 bags. If you order the 56 bags, it's only actually $4 total more expensive to have 56 bags, and then you can do 2.5 bags of concrete per post. So you're in the allowable engineering safety zone for the fence posts, the depth of them, as well as now you have 25% more concrete. So it's actually 25% safer. So basically for only $4 extra, you get more concrete, you could have a more solid base, and then it'd be roughly $6,300 for a 12-foot tall fence versus the $10,000 for an 8-foot tall fence.
And if that were the case, we do want to have we would want the wind load tested, because of it being a public space.
Mm-hmm.
And then another piece of this discussion is that we don't have this budgeted. If you do decide to move forward, we need to consider where that money would come from, or if it would be budgeted in next year's budget, or if you would like it to see it in this year's.
What was the concern with the netting?
The use of
The broadheads?
broadheads, it will basically,
really expensive too, wasn't it?
It's
It was pretty
$12,000.
substantial. Is that what the netting was?
$12,000.
Okay.
And then you could have someone come through and just cut it all, or, which is more likely to happen. I think people are more likely to vandalize a net than a fence.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to move the driveway over to the Public Works and do another mound like what's on the east side of the range right now? Do a 10-foot mound like that and just move the driveway over for Public Works? I mean, that's a low-cost option. It's not as good as a fence maybe, but.
I mean, I don't know that we really need to do anything. It's just when I've been out, campaigning and stuff, I mean, I had somebody mention that, it just made them kind of uncomfortable. Not that anything has ever been shot over there, not that it's ever been a problem. It was more for peace of mind, sort of. So, I mean, I don't know that.
We want to just maybe try and budget for next year?
That's what I mean, I don't,
Not
but I mean,
worry
even,
about
do
it
we
this
really
year.
need it, though, is the question. I mean, I think it would be nice to have, but at what cost? And, I mean, the reality is it tall enough? I mean, you guys, Travis and Jason, I know shoot too, and, I mean, if it's gonna go that direction, it's probably gonna be when somebody's drawing back and they've got their bow up and they're trying to get the strength to pull it, and they accidentally pull the release or whatever, I mean, I don't know.
We do have that berm on that backside, and we do know that arrows go over it because it's punctured the building.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm not sure if that would be
Sure.
adequate either.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a 12-foot fence there if we can budget for it for, I don't know. Maybe we don't need it, I don't.
And another, sorry.
I was going to say, one approach we could take is that we could just queue this up as part of the 2024 budget. And in the time that it takes for us to put that budget together, we might have some indication as to its necessity, and if nothing else, we get to go all the way back around the clock to next spring. Well, once we've gotten like 12 months out of this, in 12 months, we're gonna know if there really needs to be a fence or not. Like,
Yeah, that is true.
either something did or did not happen.
Yeah, because we just did it, right before winter time last year. I mean, what was it, September,
Yeah.
October,
So
something
we-
like that?
We could
So, I
just go
mean,
forward with the intent of budgeting for it, and if we decide we don't need it, then we just don't, just leave it. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's probably a wise way to go about
Could
it.
you, I mean, I don't know, could you, when you do if we budget for it, can you maybe specify that it's just used towards the archery range, or do you have to specify in detail that it's only for a fence?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I would
if we decide not to do a fence, maybe we can have a little of that money to put in a couple more benches or any add-ons that we might want to do that maybe not be a fence.
So I think I would
Does that make
allocate,
sense?
yeah, I think I would budget a place for this in Fund 920, in the parks area. We would put in, we'd add a description for what the intent is, but to the extent that we say, you know what, we don't actually need this fence and we want to use another purpose, then it's simply a budget amendment coming back from the council saying, here's what we do intend to use it for, and that might be an entirely different general ledger code or not, but either way, you come back and declare a new intent, and, yeah. Be easy enough.
One more thing I just want to be considered while we're talking about this now, is that we did just put in that fence that is there. And so we would be able to use the chain link sections for replacing at the dog park. It's the same fence, but the post would likely be unusable again, so just an FYI.
I mean, if the real reason for doing it is just to kind of create a feeling of security, sort of, but also, allow people to kind of see through there. I mean, the chain link fence, I mean, do they have like those little plastic slots or whatever that you can put in them, right? I mean, would that make it feel like you were separated more? I mean, in reality, it's not really any different probably, but,
It's only a 4-foot chain link, though.
yeah, right. But then you can still see over it, like Jordan was worried about, people not paying attention to what's going on, and, but I don't know if that would, maybe we could just get a price on that. I mean, maybe that would solve the feeling of security that, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know, security, for me, if I'm shooting in the range, I'm gonna, just natural instincts to be more
Stay away
cautious,
from
knowing that you can see people over here,
Yeah.
it's,
True.
I guess, I don't know, as a shooter,
Yeah, right, yeah.
If you got that, which every shooter should have, peripherals, if you know there's people in the lane next to you or people on the other side of the fence, you're gonna be it's gonna be a good reminder that, there's people around, you gotta be responsible and mindful and.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe we just, I mean, we could put it in the budget, but I mean, I'm fine with just doing
And if-
nothing on
yeah,
it
if
too,
we
now
don't-
and just see if we need to.
Let it go a year or whatever, and then if we don't use the money, we don't use the money.
Yeah.
But if we decide there's a need, at least
Yeah, that's true.
it would be there already.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
How much do you think put in there for a monetary, $7,500 or something, or 10,000, or?
I would say 10,000 to the in-between, the 8-foot tall cedar fence cost and see where it goes from there, I guess. Would be my suggestion.
All right. Anything else needed from us on that then?
No, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, K16, resolution to consider UV bulb and equipment replacement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the UV bulbs and equipment was installed in 1997 with the plant upgrades that took place at that time. The UV bulbs are the last step in the wastewater treatment process. UV light targets and kills any microorganisms that are left in the wastewater before being discharged to the Rum River. Currently, the capital improvement plan has the replacement to take place in 2026. However, there are $294,659 and some odd cents in ARPA funds available that could be used to replace the UV bulbs and equipment now. The ARPA funds need to be obligated by 2024 and spent by 2025. The next wastewater plant upgrade is scheduled to be completed roughly 2040. The UV bulbs and equipment, once replaced, would last until that 2040 upgrade. At the wastewater treatment plant, staff reached out and received 2 quotes, one from Vesco for $144,830, and one from Great Northern Environmental for $130,000.
And I asked Mike about this, and I know they have like one other set kind of there right now, don't they? But, I mean, it's,
There's 2 sets there now,
Yeah.
but it's my understanding we've been taking parts off that second set. It hasn't
Okay.
been installed in 2-3 years, so
Gotcha.
there would need to be repairs to that second
Gotcha.
set before we
Okay,
can put it
all
in.
right. But I think if we do buy this now with these ARPA funds, that there's potential that we could transfer that money out of the sewer fund and move it into the general fund is kind of what, I mean, not that we necessarily would, but it would be an option, is kind of what you were saying, I think, if I remember right.
Well, to the extent that you have capital purchases that were otherwise budgeted and reflected in a rate study, and you now acquire a different funding source, in this case, federal funds, in theory, yes.
I mean, that's something we
I
would,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to promise that. At this point, I would rather see us get farther into the 2024 budget process.
right.
Or into the next set of rate studies and see how things go. We're going to have some other expenditures we got to get through, but in
Yeah.
theory.
But I think it makes a lot of sense to purchase this with those funds right now.
Yeah, part of the reason we ended up going to this is understanding that we need to find a way to expend these, and we already had reported that we were going to use a portion of these funds for sewer infrastructure. Basically, the UV light system isn't going to make it till 2040 anyway. We're going to get stuck replacing it. And to the extent that we can do it now with federal funds and know that it will actually make it to 2040, then
And it's a
May as well.
requirement, we have to use that on this type of thing. We can't just say, oh yeah, we're gonna take the ARPA money and buy, whatever we want with it. So we're limited on what we can use it for, so. But if we can offset some of that cost and then potentially move some money out of sewer to the general fund, then we can use that money, so. Do I have a motion to approve the purchase of the UV bulbs?
I'll motion the low bid.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to case 17, the citywide cleanup day discussion.
Okay, Mayor and Council, cleanup days historically has been held each spring as a way for residents to get rid of certain items such as appliances, mattresses, electronics, any items unwanted they have laying around. The day is somewhat weather dependent, meaning if it's nice weather out, we have people come. If it's not a very nice day, we don't have very much for in attendance. Pricing was generally set through a refuse hauler and would consist of 2 dumpsters, 2 public works staff, take payment, help unload bulky items, and sell from 8 to 4 at the public works garage compost site. Each year, staff hears complaints from residents that we charge too much for items, whatnot, so that's kind of what is bringing this forward. Staff hears it during the event, we've heard it after the event, stuff like that. So I'm bringing forth some options for you. Some of our neighboring cities utilize Evergreen Recycling out of Rush City, which basically will come in and do our cleanup day for us. They'll take the payment, they'll take all the items back with them, with the scrap iron that comes in, they'll split that out, and they'll split that revenue with the city to offset costs that are involved for the cleanup day. That's one option. The other option was to stop holding cleanup day. East Central Sanitation is right up the road. They take all the same items. They're open 8 to 4 daily, 8 to 11:45 on weekends. They also take brush. The only downfall is they don't accept a credit card, it's cash or check only. Those 2 options, Evergreen Recycling and the transfer station pricing is basically the same, but we charge definitely more when we have held the cleanup day here. So, the other one would be to hold the cleanup day similar to other years and then find somebody to take the items that come in.
And I asked Josie to kind of grab some numbers. I don't know if those came from Anna or from Matt or not, but it was like 16 people, I think, 4 years ago, 10 people, 32 people, 10 people. So I mean, is that like everybody, or is that just the people that paid at City Hall, or?
So in 2020, we had 32 people. That was in total for that whole year.
Okay.
People who paid at City Hall in advance and people who paid at the door. The other years for numbers that we have, which are all roughly around that you know,
or
10 to 17 range. That does not include people who paid at the site, but if you were to assume it was kind of the same,
Yeah.
but we don't have the tracking numbers for that.
Do you know, I mean, if you were to guess, is that 30-ish sound about right, or, I mean,
In total?
hard, yeah,
I would say that's pretty close.
yeah.
So-
It's not a ton of people.
I mean, people that want to get rid of something, they can get rid of it. You know, they'll find a way to get rid of it. The other thing is, we have, I think is it A1 Tire right up the road? That if you have tires, they're dirt cheap, that's where we take them. I'm sure that's where everybody else takes them too.
So I have a question on the, so with option one, is the pricing on the stuff going to be lower than it has been with the city doing it?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the problem with why we're getting somewhat low numbers is because the prices were high, because we had to try and cover our costs, which I get it. I mean,
And just for clarification, we didn't set those prices at all. The hauler set them. So whether we had waste management or back in the ECS, the city had no involvement and had no discretion to change those prices. It was 100% dictated by the hauler.
okay. I mean, I guess I'd like to see option one and try it. I mean, we're really out nothing except someone opening up the lot, basically, is from my understanding.
Yeah, we would have some public works staff there. We'd have one person there just to be there just because the public works garage is open.
Sure.
You know, so, but they would basically they would do all the, take the money in and haul everything away, all that kind of stuff. It would just be the charges of, I think, what we bring there, what we have to get rid of, the city.
I know, me personally, I like to get the flyer in the mail. It says citywide cleanup. It kind of makes it feel like the city gives a hoot. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if we can do it, I mean,
It just
even.
kind of reminds you of, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I got that piece of junk sitting
Yeah.
out in the yard that I should
Cleans up
grab.
the yards, and then
Right.
even, I mean, if we get some money back, even to just offset the little bit of cost of public works, I mean, if we just break even, that would be awesome, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a service. So I would make a motion for option one, try it and see how it goes.
I'd second that.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Merrill to do option one, and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 4-0.
So staff will work with Evergreen Recycling to find a date that works for them, and we'll make sure that it's out enough to give some advance notice to the public, and we'll post it on our Facebook and website.
Okay.
Thanks.
Moving on to K18, consider approval of social media disclaimer policy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this was discussed at our last committee of the whole meeting. And you'll notice that in the Facebook live streams that we're doing today, I do have that comment posted at the top. Comments will not be moderated during the meeting, so that is being taking place right now. But part of the discussion of the committee of the whole was to have a social media disclaimer policy. As I shared, we don't have staff dedicated to monitoring our Facebook page. Staff, and primarily myself, and maybe the help of others like our city clerk here, will keep an eye on what posts are coming in. If there are things that don't meet that, like using profanity and things like that, that the Facebook didn't screen out. And also, I'd like to mention that Facebook sometimes screens people out and hides them, and I don't know why. So periodically, we do go through there. Also, Ms. Hillsheim sees those too sometimes, and we're like, hey, why is this hidden? We'll unhide it. So we will do our best without having a dedicated staff person. But Ms. Strand and myself did go through this policy. We did not make a whole lot of changes, but we did, this, as you recall, was from the city of Edina. We did include that there were multiple Facebook pages. We made it plural because we do have the liquor store and we do have PD, so there'd be discretion for those. But other than that, we just took out, let's see, there was one bullet at the bottom that we removed because it had reference to something, basically if you had an attorney on staff, which we do not, to depend on things that were of that nature. So we took that out because we don't have that on staff. So we wouldn't be looking for things of that.
Okay. I know Dan had mentioned that you didn't want to waste time, copying and pasting. I mean, was it difficult to do the screenshots or to archive those comments and stuff like that, or?
I wouldn't say it's difficult, it's just another thing that we have to remember to do. That is Ms. Strand's added duty. I have her doing that as the only person. If she's on vacation, I make sure I delegate that to someone else or take it on myself. It is a task to remember, and we'll, try to keep on it.
Doesn't take a lot of time, no, it's just remembering to do it is probably the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
And doing it right away after the meeting, so
Sure.
we could catch all comments.
Sure. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. K-19, accepting brush discussion. So this was one that I had brought up there, and I wanted to, I know we talked about kind of doing an event where we're doing maybe a bonfire, kind of an Oktoberfest is kind of what the talk has been now, sort of, but, and I think that's a great idea, but I wanted to make a decision on whether we would accept the brush now. I mean, I think we should eventually burn it in that, event, but I don't know that that'll get rid of all of it, so, but now is the time of year, of course, people are wanting to start getting rid of that brush, so, actually, I had a call, last week, somebody asked me about that, so, and I know we had got some numbers, it sounds like, Matt, from, I forget the name of the company that takes it out,
Yep.
but,
I got, Mayor and Council, I got some numbers from Rivard, and they charge $35 a pickup load, $60 for a 1 ton with a trailer, and a dump truck would be $100. East Central takes a pickup truck, be $5, and with the trailer is $10.
I mean, how much do you remember how much we used to get? I mean, how many how big of a deal is it to get rid of
I
it?
can honestly tell you from years ago when we did take brush, it was, we ended up with a lot of brush, and it was the point of how do we get rid of it?
The pile was still there, it was there for a
Yeah.
number of years.
Yeah, the pile was probably at least 50 feet by 50 feet, could have been even more than that, by 25 feet high. I mean, we just kept pushing it up. The brush was, and then it's like, okay, now, and we did burn it a few times in the wintertime, but then you could start this fire in the morning, then we'd have to have it put out in the afternoon. So that was before Evercat. And now we have Evercat there, so I don't know if burning a big pile like that, I think they'd have some concerns with the big pile.
Pretty big pile, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had to have, we had Brooklyn haul it away, Josie, at one time. I think Brooklyn hauled some brush away.
I believe that, so I think it was in 2016, when we had closed the compost site, we needed to clean it up. It wasn't just brush, we did have debris in there, but the city budgeted $35,000 to clean up that site for what had been there when it was unmonitored. And we did have Rivard come, and they
Yes,
brought their
that's
own
right.
loader in, and they brought a big semi-trailers to haul out that wooden debris.
So I know one of my neighbors, they had some tree work done, and the tree company had a chipper on site, and they actually like to chip the stuff, and then they can use the chippings or sell it. So I would think if we were to do something like this and we had excess, I would think there would be somebody that would just come chip it and take it, but I could be wrong. If we can guarantee it's clean and they could do something with
Well,
it,
yeah, I
or
think
we
Mike-
could use it, or,
Mike had mentioned something last time, kind of
You
that,
have to separate the woods.
I thought
Do you
if
really?
We had clean
Yeah.
wood, there would be
Hardwood,
little or no
softwood.
cost. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Mayor and Council, we have rented a chipper, big chipper in the past to chip brush, and it's just that, it's not just wood. It's you're chipping all the little twigs and all that kind of stuff, and it ends up being more of a heavy, I don't know if dirt is the right word, but it's very fine.
Yeah.
It's not like you would go buy
Decorative
mulch.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah, there's no air in it, it's pretty dense.
yeah.
I guess I would kind of like to see how it goes for 1 year.
Kind of what I'm thinking too. I mean, worst case scenario, we know we're gonna burn some of it, want to try it for a year and, because that was an extended period of time and it was full of couches and who knows what else, right? When we had to pay all that money to get rid of it. And that was like,
There were some appliances and a couch, I remember specifically one that we did haul out, but we had even stumps though, and that costs money to get rid of when you have stumps, and they don't.
and
like
we're
to
only
take
talking
that.
about taking something, I think we talked about, smaller than your wrist, right? And that should burn fairly quickly if we're taking just small, tiny stuff like that too.
If you're gonna put a size requirement or minimum on, or maximum on there, we'll have to state that, and that'll be something we'll have to watch, because that might be more hassle than it's worth. If we just say brush, maybe that's a little bit easier,
There's
but.
something else to consider on that is it takes one storm to come through in the summertime and lose a bunch of trees, and all of a sudden, we have a whole bunch of brush.
Yeah, right.
And people will ask if they can get rid of, because I know it happened, I've taken phone calls, can I bring my dead conifer in? That's not, technically not brush, but we would not allow that, but something to consider, because people will ask for things like that too.
Would you
I
want
just
it
know I had
to-
so many people ask me to do it. That's you know, it's like, we are here to serve the residents, and so, I mean, I don't know, I hate the idea of spending that kind of money on it, but I had just, that was maybe the number one request that I got was, well, slow people down on my street, and I wish you'd take brush.
That,
I'm not saying that I think it's a bad idea,
No,
but one
yeah,
thing
right.
one thing to consider is possibly putting it into the budget for next year to have a cost associated with it. And if you don't hear anything from the public, if they're okay with that, because then it's directly tied to the service, that might be an option, so it's out there, and it's aware of what the cost is. That
Well, I
pushes
mean,
it back a
can-
year, but.
Can we charge people to take brush? I mean, they're paying, you said $5 at ECE for a truckload, basically?
$5 for a pickup load and $10 for a trailer load.
I mean,
that's cheap.
that is cheap,
cheap.
yeah. Yeah.
We should charge the same then, at
It's
least break
because,
even
it's
on
because
it.
they chip it and sell it probably. They do something with it.
But I mean, we have somebody out there at the compost
Might as
site. I
well
mean, if they're
utilize
gonna
it.
have to pay to go bring it to ECE, it saves them the drive, and we're still offering the service, and we're recouping some cost at least to take it, but
We don't
They
have
used
any
to
money
an
out there.
Incinerator out there
That'd be my-
Yeah,
for
we-
certain things, I don't know if they still do. But that's probably what they did with the brush.
Oh, burned it
Yeah,
at
they had a
EC's?
They had a
Uh,
big
that-
incinerator out there for, I
that
don't know
could
if
be.
they still do that. but-
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, if we're gonna take brush and we're actually gonna charge for it, $5 a load or something like that, I will have to stop and think about what kind of internal control to put in place to ensure that whoever is working that gate isn't just putting cash in their pocket.
yeah, I mean, how
That's a
about,
consideration.
do they have to come to City Hall to buy a ticket, and then they bring the ticket out there to?
That's one possibility, but I'd wanna think it through, so I'm coming to a solution that works correctly for internal controls, but also is not a ton of work, right? Like,
Yeah,
just-
right,
There is a simple answer, but I'd have to give it some thought.
yeah.
What if you just tell them your address and they charge it to an account? Or put it on the water bill as an extra, I don't know.
Is that something we can do, or?
Yeah,
That's a possibility, yeah. Like I said, I
I'm
wanna
gonna-
give it a little bit of
I'll
thought
just-
to.
What's your address, Luke?
That's true, yeah.
oh, yeah, true, yeah.
Well, if you show ID, I guess.
Change your
Bring an
mind?
ID, a
No,
piece of
no,
mail, like
just
when
an
you have to
idea.
go
Yeah,
in.
we'll have to make sure we
County.
scan them, right? Yeah, I mean, I guess, I guess I would ask that we maybe say, okay, let's go ahead and approve taking it, and we see if, I don't know, I mean, can we do that with, just trusting that you guys will find a way to maybe do charging for it? I mean, I don't think people would have a problem paying to get rid of it if they could get rid of it right there and not have to make the drive up to Cambridge and.
I think the idea of having a public event out of it's pretty cool, too.
Yeah, I do
So
too,
That's
yeah.
a good fringe benefit of providing the service.
Mhm.
You're thinking to match the same prices, the $5 a truckload or so to say?
I think so, yeah. I mean, because we know we can get rid of it for that price, so, we gotta drive it up there, but I mean, if we can burn some of it and, it might not be as bad, so.
Yeah,
I mean, there
think-
might-
I think staff could figure out how we can make that, so make sure that we're not incurring any additional cost by taking it and also providing the service.
And if we try it and we get a whole bunch and it wastes a bunch of your time, we don't wanna do that either. I mean, those guys are busy as could be already, the way it is, but,
I mean,
Do you want him to let us know if the pile's getting too big and we can,
we could, yeah,
Shut
then
it
we could
down
say,
for
yeah,
the
well, that's
season?
enough, yeah, right, yeah. No,
I don't know, does that make?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Keep
Yeah.
monitor it, and, if it
That's
gets
how- I think-
be too big, we can maybe put a stop to it or something
Yeah,
like that.
right.
and-
would it, maybe this is technically against the rules, but would it be possible to say, get a sponsor that's say a tree trimming company? You have one of their signs at the site, and then at the end of the year, anything that we don't use, they come and take it for us as for advertising? Because anybody that's bringing tree branches in, they're probably sick of dealing with tree branches, and they might hire this person. So I almost guarantee you're gonna get some tree trimming service that has a chipper that'll just come chip it and take it away at the end of the year for the advertising. So it wouldn't cost us anything. And then we could just not even charge for it.
I think the thing that I see in that is that we would be keep pushing this pile up to keep control of it, and to have a tree company come here and take it, they're gonna have to pull all that stuff up that I have packed in there to make room. I don't know if they would want that.
Okay, I just know, it's valuable advertising.
Yeah, I
you
don't
might-
disagree.
It might become a favoritism argument too.
We would have to draft an RFP for that to go out to be, yep.
But that would be one way to potentially maybe offset the cost so we don't have to charge, or if it becomes a nuisance, we could do something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of do, Illuminate's kind of the same way, companies advertise at it, right? So, I mean, there's favoritism
But
there
they're
too,
paying
technically.
or providing that advertisement themselves.
Not to complicate it and add in another option, but just food for thought. The city always does spring tree trimming or winter tree trimming. Not that it would help everybody, but it could be something, if we wanted to provide a service, people could put their brush at the end of the road or something, and they could just pick it up once a year. That's something too, if you wanted to help people who maybe couldn't get to the compost site, we're already out and about. It's in our slump, I mean, we never really have a slump, Public Works, but it's in the area where, time of year where people should trim their trees in the winter because of disease issues and such, so just food for thought.
I think that gets tough if you have a storm come in and you're trying to get rid of stuff, and I like the idea, but that seems like it would be a lot of work. But I suppose you're right, because they're already driving around, right?
And the time.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I'd like to see a trial and see how it goes. I would rather not have to deal with the hassle of charging for it, but, because I think there's always gonna be a way to get rid of it for free or next to nothing. I mean, I would think, but I don't know. Sometimes you gotta be creative.
I mean, we could say for right now, let's accept it, and then we'll maybe explore the two options of charging for it, and bring that back, so make the decision to accept it tonight, and then we'll explore the option of charging for it, bring that back to the next council meeting, and maybe we can put a request for proposal out that, you know, if we will allow you to advertise here, if you'll dispose of the trimmings, and we could advertise at the Oktoberfest type event too for them, you know, we could say, you know, we appreciate their sponsorship of the event by just disposing of what we don't burn, you know, I mean, that would be
Yep.
maybe something we could work into the deal too.
I mean, and if people are saying it's favoritism, you could put a bid number on it and people could pay. I mean, maybe a company would offer to pay. I mean, that's how the free market works. People pay for these things. So I think it's an interesting idea all
Yeah,
around.
and I think that gives us two options of ways that we potentially could cover the cost. And then I think, I like the idea too, that, you know, if it gets to be too much, then we say, hey, that's enough. I mean, unless we figure out a way to get rid of it, you know, in the meantime, but yeah, I mean, I'd ask for a motion, I guess, for the combination of those ideas and start accepting it now, and then, you know, come back to the next council meeting with ways to cover our cost.
And should we do like a 3-inch limit on it, or no limit, or
think
4-inch, 3-inch?
Because you don't want to get big
Roughly,
logs and
right.
stuff like that in there.
So 3 or 4 inches,
Yeah, I mean,
3-inch?
No brush, no timber, basically, right?
Yeah, but you almost have to define, you know, what an exact number roughly, I would think, because some people are gonna have a different definition of a brush. I don't know, 3-inch maybe?
Have it on some kind of sign at the entrance, this is what we accept for brush. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Something
sure we can figure something out with that. I mean, I don't want any big stuff in there either. If you're gonna burn it, if you're burning brush, anything too big is now gonna sit and smolder, and it's gonna not be able, something we can put out at the end of the night as easy or something like that.
Probably, I don't know.
Pop can,
I
yeah.
don't know, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, something like that. I wouldn't say any
30-inch.
bigger than that.
Yeah, and you could use that as a reference, you could just say no larger, no bigger diameter than a pop can.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just, it's simple, people understand that,
yeah, I like that.
you know.
I'll make the motion to approve it with the two ideas for either for charging for it or for doing some sort of sponsorship, and then a pop can size limit.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. And then we had, I guess it's gonna be, what did we say, K20 for moving L3 out of the consent agenda. Resolution to consider setting work sessions for the 2024 budget. So, I mean, I kind of agree with you, Dan, that sticking with Tuesdays is what I would like to see. I mean, I know we kind of talked about that earlier, that maybe we just try to see if we can lighten the load on the council meeting nights for those nights, and, you know, so we're still fresh, I guess, because it's gonna be
Yeah.
after those meetings, so.
I just don't want bad decisions to be being made
Yeah,
because we're tired and not fully focused
Yeah, I
or
mean, I think
anything like that.
one of the most important things we do as council members is go through that budget and make sure we know what we're spending, and it's not our money, it's their money, and, yeah, so, I mean, I don't have any problem with kind of making that a plan, that we're gonna try to keep the load light and really focus our effort on those evenings to the budget, so. That sounded good with staff and everything? Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I don't know, we're probably gonna make a motion on that separately now? Okay, so we'll do a motion on K20 to keep the load light on the council meeting nights where we're gonna also have a budget discussion. Can I get a motion for that and a second?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Anything else on the consent agenda that wants to be discussed?
I'd like to give a thank you to Justin Wolf River Electric for giving the $10,000 back to the community, so I think that's great.
Absolutely.
It's awesome that, you know, a business here is willing to help out, and maybe maybe it'll spark something for other businesses to donate to Illuminate, so we can continue to grow it with the organic cost to the city.
Yeah, that's absolutely, I called him today to thank him personally, because it's huge. I mean, $10,000 to go towards Illuminate Isani, and like I said, we only are covering the cost to basically run the project this year, and for them to donate that, and I know we've had Connexus, I think also was, you know, they had already done that, but, so maybe we've got 5,000 from them too, but yeah, that's huge, and like you said, it's awesome for a local business to participate like that, so we
Yeah.
sure appreciate that.
Maybe he'll lead some other businesses into doing the same thing, so
Yeah,
that'd
for
be
sure.
great for the community.
Any other discussion?
I had a question about L4, if that's okay, Matt. Did General Repair Company or anyone else agree that that pump needed to be replaced, or did only one company look at that pump, or did you have a look at that pump, or?
We went with our vendor that put all our lift station pumps in. They came out, the goal was to have it rebuilt, let's rebuild the pump. And